Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Friday, 28th of December, 20th of TEVES. Here we go. More laws about the potato. Halachas about potato. Here goes. There is a rule that we all follow called the law of Bishul Akum, Bishul Yisrael, which means we try to eat foods only that were cooked by Jews, not foods that were cooked by non-Jews. Really, that means that the fire just should be lit or started by a Jew, and then we call it Bishul Yisrael, then it's appropriate for us. Otherwise, we try not to eat it. But this only applies to important foods. You see in a minute where we're going with this is to decide whether this applies to a potato or not. Only to important foods do we say, like a bread or something, hey, that has to be cooked by a Jew. The way to find out if a food is important or not is to check. Is it eaten raw? Well, then it's not so important. Or is it served on a king's table? Nah, you wouldn't serve that on a king's table. Okay, then it's not important. That's what the rabbis tell us is the defining way to decide if that food has the law of better be cooked by a Jew or doesn't have that law. You check, is it eaten raw? Then it's such an important food. Is it ever served on the table of a king? Nah, then it's not such an important food. Okay, the question is, where does the potato fit in? Is that an important food? Well, potatoes are never eaten raw, so it looks like it might be an important food. But the question is, are they important enough to be served on the table of a king? So, actually, rabbis debate that. Does a potato rise to the importance yeah, I would serve that to a king? The Aruch HaShulchan says that our custom is that we consider a potato not important enough to be served on the table of a king, which would mean, since it's not eaten raw, so on that count, it's a little bit important, but it's not served on the table of a king, so okay, then it's not important. So that would mean, okay, then a non-Jew could cook a potato for you, and that would be the end of that. But the next question is, there are certain dishes of potato like I don't know which dish would be considered important. Let's assume hash browns were considered a very important or chashuv way of serving a potato recipe. If that would be considered important, then when you would have hash browns, assuming that they're considered, yeah, I would serve that to a king. Well, if you would, then the law of Bishul Akum would apply to it. You would have to have your hash browns always cooked only by a Jew. But there are other rabbis who put in their opinion and say, well, if some potato dishes are fit to be served on the table of a king, which makes them very, very important, then that would make all potato fit to be, in that same category. So many rabbis say no, we're not going to do it that way, and each potato recipe has to be evaluated by itself. So if, let's say, hash browns is considered important, I'm just making that up, but if hash browns would be considered an important and chashuv way of serving a potato such that you would serve it on a king's table, then boom, then you'd have to have a Jew prepare your hash browns, okay? And that is what most rabbis are saying now, that whenever you look at a potato preparation, like maybe mashed potatoes, let's say, is not important enough to be nicely served on a king's table, then fine, that wouldn't have to be cooked by a Jew. But if hash browns, I just made that up, are considered important, then it would have to be prepared by a Jew. That is the way that most rabbis are deciding it now. Hope that wasn't too complicated. I'll just end with one more, and that is that most rabbis agree that a sweet potato, all people agree that that's the kind of thing that you would serve that on a king's table, so that all agree that the laws of Bishul Akum apply to it. If you ever want to have your sweet potato cooked, the fire at least has to be lit by a Jew. Sorry if that was complicated. You can go ask a rabbi to say, could you explain this to me better? But the main idea that you need to know is, does Bishul Akum, or the strictnesses of cooked by a Jew only, does that apply to a potato? That's what we've been discussing here today. And most rabbis say it depends on the dish. If it's a fancy, kingly worth food, then yeah, got to be cooked by a Jew. If it's just something like mashed potatoes, which isn't so important, then no, it does not have to be prepared by a Jew. Okay? Thanks for logging on. Hope that made sense to you. Have a great Shabbos and log on again after Shabbos for more. Bye.